What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be talking about the performance of the Iron Will Broadhead. This is the wide series. If you guys have been paying attention to the channel, you know that I made an abrupt switch from mechanical broadheads, which historically I've ran pretty much my entire hunting career, over to a fixed blade broadhead. I won't dive into the details as to why I made that switch, because we did talk about this in a previous video. If you guys want to go check that out, you can. But today I want to talk about how this broadhead performed. Obviously, you can see here I was fortunate enough to put an arrow through a nice Michigan 10-point buck on a permission property that I have access to. I actually shot this buck at 5:40 in the afternoon on October 5th and just actually pulled him out of the degreasing bath. We're just going to do a Euro mount on this buck. But let's talk about the Iron Will Broadhead and how it performed, at least in my experience. Now, for details, I did go with the wide series. I went with 125 grain broadhead, and I opted to go with the double blade versus a single bevel. After shooting this buck with this broadhead, I'm obviously going to continue to run these throughout the year because I've already made a pretty significant investment to pick up 6 of these. But maybe next year I might try the single bevels just to see how those actually perform. But let's talk about my overall thoughts and opinions on this broadhead and talk about my experience with it. And what I first want to talk about is tuning the broadhead. When I picked these up, obviously I did build another arrow setup. I went with a 470 grain arrow. So once I built these new arrows, I did tune them up at Sunrise Archery with Derek, and we made sure that the bow was shooting bullet holes with this new arrow setup before I left the shop and before I tipped it with the Iron Will Broadhead. Now, I did bear shaft tune or shoot a bear shaft with a field point. They were grouping pretty well, so at that point I immediately shifted over and started shooting the Iron Will wide series. I did start shooting these and I started grouping them with field points, and to my surprise, there was no additional tuning that I needed. These were grouping so good out to 40 yards that I actually started putting chips in the back of the practice head that I was using, and at that point I just started focusing on shooting the broadhead itself and just getting familiar with shooting a wide cut fixed blade like this. So in my experience, like I said, very little tuning needed. I was very impressed with just how accurate these broadheads are. Now, I will say that these vented broadheads definitely have a whistle to them. So if that's something that you're concerned about, if you go with their 150 grain, then it is a solid construction. Obviously, you just have to play around with what type of outsert or half cert that you're going to run. Next year, I might build another set of arrows and play around with the titanium setups that you can purchase through Iron Will, because I did hear that those are a little bit more durable than the standard hardware that comes with the RIP TKO series. So with that being said, let's talk about the performance that I experienced on this buck itself. Now, keep in mind, I did get shot placement was very ideal. I mean, I couldn't really have asked for a better shot. It was right behind the shoulder blade. I got a clean pass through. On entrance, I went directly through the middle of 2 ribs. On the exit, I did nick one of the ribs, which it just cut through it, but for the most part, it was pretty much dead center in between the 2 ribs on the exit. Now, the arrow did bury into the dirt about 4 to 5 inches, and what I was really surprised by is the edge retention. It wasn't razor sharp like it was when I received it, but I could definitely still shave hair off my arm. So obviously this broadhead is still in great shape. There's no nicks, there's no damage to the blades itself. Obviously, I will touch it back up before I throw it back in the quiver, but definitely have full confidence in using this broadhead again going forward. Now, the one thing that I do want to talk about, and keep in mind, all my experience is based off shooting mechanical broadheads. So the deer did tip over within sight. Actually, he didn't even make it 40 yards after the shot, but I did take a little bit of extra time to see how the blood trail was. I've heard numerous reports about blood trails obviously not being as good with fixed blades when compared compared to mechanicals. Obviously, that is one of the trade-offs, but the Iron Will Wide Series has supposedly been really good with blood trails. Now, when I started looking for blood, there was definitely blood at the impact point, but beyond that, I was not finding a lot of blood on the ground, and that is part of the reason why next year I might play around with using a single bevel, because with the double blade wide series, obviously the arrow rotates through the air, but once it makes contact, it stops rotating, whereas with a single bevel, it'll continue to rotate through the animal. So it does create a little bit larger of a wound channel, which hopefully would put more blood on the ground. But again, you know, I don't know that, being that I haven't shot those. So again, it's something that I will test out next year. Overall, I was very happy with the performance of the Broadhead. I'm going to continue to run these throughout the season. I do have another couple tags left in my pocket for Michigan. So obviously we're a 2-buck state. So if I can shoot another buck, I'm definitely going to. And I also have 2 doe tags that I want to fill. And then obviously I have my Kentucky tag that I'm going to go back down in a couple weeks and hopefully get the opportunity at the buck that we had an encounter with when we were down there during the opening season. But just wanted to jump on here real quick and share my overall thoughts and opinions on the Iron Will Wide Series double blade. Obviously, it definitely did its job. I did my job this time around, and I was very, very grateful for the opportunity on this buck. A lot of people have asked if I got anything on film. No, I did not, but you know, real quick, I'll run you guys through the hunt story. I did have an opportunity on this buck in the morning. The buck had appeared pretty early, but then he disappeared. I wasn't sure where he went. Then I saw him again. I got a glimpse of the rack. Wasn't sure exactly how big he was. Then he disappeared again. And then the third time I saw him, that's when I got a really good look at him and had committed to taking this buck if it gave me an opportunity. When I saw the buck coming in, I did realize that he wasn't putting any weight on his right front leg. So at that point, I knew that he was wounded. After breaking him down, we did realize that he had actually broke his front paw, or his front hoof, I should say. The deer probably would have struggled to make it through the winter, so definitely very happy to harvest this deer. But when the deer came through, I had 2 primary shooting lanes, and when I drew back, I had the sun at my back. And immediately I had a lot of sun glare off my peep to the point where it was almost blinding. I was trying to move around in my saddle to get to reduce that sun glare. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to, and the deer walked through my last shooting lane without being able to get a shot. Being that he was hurt, I obviously knew that he probably wasn't going to go too far, because I think what was happening during the disappearing act is that he would move in bed because he was in so much pain. And then later in the afternoon, I went back out in 5:40. I saw him in the field, and then I noticed that he was going to enter into the wood line. I spun in my saddle to shoot my weak side. He came into the wood line, and I think he was probably about 25-ish yards, right in between there. He happened to stop. I saw my window of opportunity, drew back, anchored, settled in, and let the arrow fly. And like I said, very, very happy with the overall performance of the Iron Will Broadhead. But definitely extremely grateful for the opportunity to harvest this buck. Like I said, he's not my biggest buck, but he's definitely my biggest point-wise. Up until this point, I've basically only shot nice, large Michigan 8 points. So this being a 10-point was definitely a nice little achievement and something nice to hang on the wall. Obviously, we're going to do a Euro mount. We're not going to taxidermy this buck. But yeah, very grateful for the opportunity. But that's going to be it for this video. If you guys have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Your guys' support greatly helps us out. We're on the road to hitting 10K this year. We're almost there. We're definitely creeping along. So like I said, your guys' support is greatly appreciated and really keeps us doing what we're doing. And good luck to everyone out there that still has tags in their pocket. We still have a lot of season left. So like I said, I wish you guys all the best of the luck. Make sure you guys are staying safe out there. And until next time, we'll see you guys on the next one.